Hello everyone, what a big crowd, huh? Amazing. A warm welcome. I'm gonna use the next 10 minutes to deep dive and understand how we can actually increase your sales by simply changing your point of view. Kicking it off with Netflix, I think everyone knows the success story of Netflix. They have tripled their revenues and they have increased their share value by 57% year on year. You probably wonder, how the hell did they do that? Well, the CEO has published in 2013 a very simple short memo identifying that they're actually committing and changing their strategy, shifting from just offering content online to creating content online. And I think what hit me the most was his finale words by actually saying the transformation of the shift started by the customer. What a surprise. But the customer is what I want to put the spotlight on today. My name is Caroline. I'm leading the entire sales team at Konichi. We are 70 people based in Berlin, B2B platform, a SaaS service solution for corporate payments in hotels. A few people in the industry would say like MyTaxi or Uber for the hotel stays, just simplifying the payment process in hotels. No credit cards, no invoicing. We have a twofold sales process. On the one hand, we sell to Fortune 500 companies. Customers like Facebook or Amazon or Volkswagen are using our solution to simplify the travel and simplify particularly the hotel stay for the travelers. But on the other hand, we have the rather more stubborn privatiers or hoteliers that we sell the solution to actually offer it to our travelers. It all started in 2015 over a slice of pizza with our investor, with a very, very lucky 10 million seed investment. Well, 5 years later, our main investor has become also our acquirer or acquisition, and we've been acquired recently and published it actually a month ago. So you can imagine the baby is now growing and we're merging into a larger corporation. HRS is the third biggest platform, booking platform after Booking.com, Expedia, but very much focusing only on the corporate booking side. And if you would ask the owner of HRS, why the hell would you buy those crazy hats from Berlin? And why would you support them along the journey all the time? He would continuously say the two words, it's the team and it's our agility. And I want to speak particularly about the agility. And I think everyone in this room probably says, well, we are agile, we are in sales, we need to be flexible. But what I mean about agility is that we have actually completely changed our sales pitch every single year. That doesn't mean that our product has changed, quite the contrary. We have just changed how we position ourselves. So the value proposition we sold to our customers has changed, which means changing the sales processes, which means changing the brand, the entire marketing, and how the market is actually perceiving you. And we manage that by basically looking into the customer and what the customer needs. And someone very famous has maybe copied our method. I think everyone knows Mark Zuckerberg, and he continuously says, if you don't create the thing that kills Facebook, someone else will. And I think that's exactly what we have implemented and lived, and not just from a management perspective, not just the management sitting and defining the strategy, but we have gave this power to every single employee. So we made it possible that every single department is recreating their methods, their style, and their processes by looking at or by putting the customer in the spotlight. And by doing so, we actually came across very, very basic sales mistakes we have done over and over again. I want to show you 4 of those and then deep dive in one specific. Number 1, do not marry a sales methodology. I think we are all having beautiful brains here, smart brains here. If you join a new company, even if you're in your own company, Don't accept what they give you. The sales processes, the funnels, the methodologies, whether it's BANT or Tuku, B-Mantra, challenge it. Does it still make sense? I think from one year to the other, things change, whether it's the point of view, whether it's the customer, whether it's the time. So I invite you to constantly rethink and question what the sales process you're having is currently in place. Number 2, we have continuously targeted the wrong personas, and I'll deep dive that into a second. And we have also looked into just the funnel. And I think a lot of us are still using that. You know, the typical sales funnel where you have the leads coming in and where you basically have the signature at the end. Well, in my point of view, it's not just a sales funnel, it's much more bow tie, because when you sign a client, you start upselling and you start reselling and you start cross-selling. So you actually are creating a continuous funnel on that side. So don't just think that the signature is the end of the game. And lastly, we tend to have a sales process in place that not necessarily matches our buyer's needs and our buyer's purchasing journey. And what I mean with that, I want to deep dive in a second. First and foremost, I really want to invite you today by developing empathy for your buyer. Try to put yourself in the buyer's shoes. Think like the customer. And we're always thinking, okay, how can I sell better or how can I convert better? But try imagining what actually the customer is experiencing at what point of time and what kind of content. We have done so by what Max mentioned very recently, by applying the principles of design thinking. Maybe a few have known of it. It's basically created by SAP, and they used to develop that for creating user-driven prototypes, so very much focusing on mini viable products, basically. But what we have done is using that concept, that principle, and offering to every single department, particularly obviously sales, and putting the customer in the spotlight by actually being open to the uncertainty. So what do I mean by that? You start by asking questions, and throughout the journey, you actually create focus. And I'll show you what we've done. Number 1, we identified new personas. So previously, we had our Fortune 500 companies and then classified by size. And on the other hand, we had our hotels classified by lower budget, luxury properties, and then based on the room nights. We identified personas based on their revenue managers, their sales operators, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we came up with a completely new plan by defining them by haters and enthusiasts. So who of our customers likes us immediately? What is an easy sell? And who of our customers, or maybe even non-customers, are a problematic sale? What is challenging? And do they have any similarities in background, in thoughts, in problems, in needs? And we actually managed to create those 2 personas. What we then did is we switched the sales process and looked at the buyer's journey. So what exactly is the buyer experiencing at what point of time? That was actually very insightful because the buyer is actually having a much earlier touch point with us than expected, and a completely different point of view, obviously, as we do. What we then did, and that is where the color is coming in, we used sticky notes to identify where are the potential likes and dislikes. So where do we invite our haters and enthusiasts to actually start liking or disliking us? And believe me, that was immensely shocking, particularly for me in starting that process and creating that workshop, because I've been the one actually developing that sales journey, right? But to be very fair, we identified 52 pain points / opportunities for our haters to stop talking to us. 52 points where we gave them the opportunity to turn around and leave. And that is a clear sign of the conversion drop. And we looked in detail what happened there. At what point of time do they actually start disliking us, and why? And we tried to cluster it, so it brought a few pain points, and we clustered it into 4. Number 1, they've completely had a wrong perception of us, which, yeah, you can say we've changed the sales pitch every single year, but on the other hand, it is our responsibility to make sure we speak the language. Number 2, we constantly targeted the wrong person. And number 3, we had a practical issue, and from a solution perspective, we had quite some manual workload, which is basically an interface issues. And number 4, the costs. What we then did is looking into the pain points specifically and asking questions. So how might we increase the value? How might we lower the barriers to entry? How might we create barriers to exit? How might we increase the interest? How might we simplify our communication? We had about 25 questions that came out of that scenario and put solutions to every single question. Our aim on target was 5 solutions per question, which was hell of a lot of solutions, which we then created into a plan. Solutions such as completely redefine the website. It doesn't speak the language anymore that we're using in sales. A solution was completely adapting the pitches to the new personas, so having a new pitch per persona. Creating another new value proposition and identifying it, also changing our qualification process, giving particularly our inside sales support in counter arguments, so identifying the negatives. Why would a customer potentially leave us, or a potential customer leave us, and identifying 5 counter arguments how to get them back. And overall, we managed to actually have 25 action points. It took us just 1 single day. The implementation was about 2 months, and we overall increased our conversion by 17%. We had an improved Net Promoter Score, and additionally on top of that, and I think that is key, we reduced our lead time. And I think what is the most value point, you completely empower your sales team. They are completely part of the team. They're responsible and taking responsibility for the sales process. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks so much, Carolina. Actually, wait, no, questions. Sorry, no, what am I doing? Caroline, we have 3 minutes for questions for Carolina. Anybody have a question about her talk?
Here you go.
Who was involved identifying the pain points?
Well, who was responsible for the pain points in terms of the team, or? Actually, everyone, from interns to inside sales to the front runners, literally everyone, including me.
I have a similar question actually about the buyer's journey, right? Identification. So how did you do that actually? Did you have some talks with your customers, or how do you practically understand?
We actually did, yeah, good point. We actually use quite a lot of workshop with our customers to create the product. I think you have to do that to understand what do they actually need. So we constantly have face-to-face workshops where we actually invited hoteliers to our offices and gave them the opportunity to speak up, gave them the opportunity to actually define our product. And we used one of those issues to request feedback on the sales process, but we also used feedback loops. Once we have actually lost a client, we have requested for feedback. And once we have actually won a client, we have asked for feedback. And I think it's always the way how you communicate. Even if you lose a client doesn't mean he potentially is never gonna come back. I think if you very openly and transparently approach the customer or potentially the non-customer and ask, why did it not work? You will be quite surprised how transparent they are. Yeah.
There was a stage where you identified a part of enthusiasts and a part of haters.
Mm-hmm.
And the next slide was timeline, kind of timeline,
Yeah.
pipeline actually, with those mistakes or pinpoints that were like 50, 75, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So could you maybe give some examples of what was actually those problems that you actually recognize with the ones that liked you and
Yeah.
the other where they liked you?
One very basic one, for instance, we always use our Fortune 500 companies, like the corporate customer, to actually approach the hotel program. So for instance, Amazon has about 1,700 properties alone in Germany, and then Amazon would write a letter and invite them to a webinar saying, we are using Konichi now, we are offering the smart service solution to our travelers, and we want you to participate. And that had been perceived in a very negative way. And we rewrote the letter, we made it a little bit more transparent, changed the language, not being innovative and not using digitalization, but more focusing on the value for the hotel. Another example was the Touchpoints we had, switching too much between individuals from inbound, the other way around. We had one person for the entire journey, and we realized you need to focus much more on what you can do best. So we improved the qualification process by allowing the inside sales to actually be the owner of qualifying that individual and then only starting a proper sales conversation going into the closing. Any other question? Otherwise, I'll be there. Yeah.
Carolina's here afterwards. Put your hands together for Carolina, everyone. Thank you so much.